I'm watching as much Masters of the Universe content as I possibly can before the release of the new movie, and today we're going to be going over episode 1 of the cartoon series that was released in 1983. Now, for context, I went into this completely blind with no prior knowledge of anything about the franchise, but episode 1 was kind of crazy. It starts off with Skeletor holding up the diamond of disappearance and explaining over his plan to take over Eternia and put He-Man on a shirt in the process. So he calls Beastman a slur.
I know what it does, Furface.
And then he summons all of his homies to Snake Mountain. But after he explains his plan to his crew, we cut to the palace where Orko is doing some shitty-ass magic trick. After he completely fails at doing said magic trick, Trapjaw actually pulls up and does a drive-by at the palace. So after he shoots up the place, Teela and her guard go after him before he has a chance to spin the block on everybody. And that's where Adam, aka He-Man, when he's not transformed into He-Man, just kind of dips out so he can turn into He-Man, and he takes his green tiger with him. So Teela tracks down Trapjaw, and it turns out that was just a distraction. Skeletor wanted to divert all the attention away from the palace so he can commit a home invasion. He commits the home invasion, and then he uses the diamond to disappear the Man-at-Arms and the King and Queen, plus the Sorceress in her Falcon form, who appeared to kind of warn them of the danger. And when Teela tracks down Trapjaw, she pulls out a sword on him, and this motherfucker just bites the blade off. And that's when He-Man comes in and just yeets him out of the picture. Like, he threw his ass so far that he probably ended up in a different franchise. Trapjaw just in the next episode of Thundercats at that point. Then Orko appears because he escaped the disappearing act that happened at the palace, and he tells He-Man everything that was going down. He's like, they got your moms, they got your dad, they got Man-at-Arms, everybody over here getting disappeared. So He-Man goes to Castle Grayskull to get guidance from the Sorceress, who has just disappeared, and she's in another dimension now. And she tells him the only way to get everybody back is to destroy the diamond that Skeletor has. So Skeletor and his homies are on their way to Castle Grayskull. They add B&E to their rap sheet, but He-Man's waiting for them. He goes into a frenzy of just tossing motherfuckers around, but Skeletor makes a giant rock monster that he ends up punching. Homie was over here breaking rocks like he was in Snowfall. He-Man ends up grabbing the diamond, then crushing it, saving everybody, saving the day. It all ends in an awkward laugh sequence. But not before we get the message of the day.
In today's story, Skeletor was looking for a shortcut, a quick way to riches and power. You may know some people like that, always looking for the quick way to get ahead of everybody else. Well, it doesn't work that way. The people who succeed are the ones who work for what they want. So don't be fooled by those who say they have a sure thing. There's always a catch to it.
Now, what I like about this episode, I like Trapjaw's inconvenient but kind of dope power set where he has to remove the arm attachment that he currently has and replace it with a new one. It definitely kind of hinders him because when he's trying to put on a new attachment, he just can't get the angle right. And with me not being an expert on any of this lore still, I got a little confused that people don't know that Adam is He-Man, even though he looks like He-Man. Yeah, one of the most tan white boys you ever seen with a blonde bob cut. Yeah, you don't put two and two together. And also the tiger should kind of be a dead giveaway. The green tiger, but whatever. I'm putting too much thought into this. And I find it interesting that they did an introduction of all the bad guys that are going to be in the series and not introduce the secondary heroes first, which is kind of dope in my opinion. Their character designs are crazy. It makes sense. They look like very good villains. So overall, I gotta say episode 1 had pretty good vibes. And with that being said, I'm going to get into episode 2 next. But remember, kids, it doesn't pay off in the long run to take the easy way out. Work harder, not smarter. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Episode 2 was a little bit of a different one. We opened up with Prince Adam's mom recollecting via memory machine on how she ended up in Eternia. And turns out she's from Earth and she was an astronaut that got stranded on Eternia, but she decided to stay. So she's telling Adam all about Earth and says that it's pretty boring compared to Eternia, but it was a beautiful place that she misses it sometimes. We cut to Orko, who's in Man-at-Arms workshop, and he's just making a goddamn mess, building a music box that's set to explode. Then it ends up exploding. So after it explodes, Man-at-Arms has enough of his shit, and then he just throws him outside of the window. Then we get a moment of Teela where she's thinking about her possible birth parents because she has been adopted by the Man-at-Arms. She's using the memory machine, and she's recalling all of her earliest memories. So she decides that she's going to go off on a journey to the Sea of Crystals to find the Oracle, who is going to tell her all about her birth parents. So after that, Orko snitches to Adam, who turns into He-Man because he's thinking, oh, that's too dangerous, so I'm going to have to go save her. But with Skeletor and Merman knowing everything that's going down, Merman decides, you know what, he's going to go get her because he's actually from the Sea of Crystal. So he's like, you know what, I hate your dad. You're not going to be coming to my turf like that. I'm about to let you do shit around here. So Teela arrives at the Crystal Sea and she gets attacked by a bunch of unicorn gorillas, but she uses the powers of Eclipse to sway them away.
Whoa. Better stay in line, way. You see it like me shining.
Then she finds the Oracle, who is a floating Moses head, and he starts telling her the story of Man-at-Arms in his younger days, where he was on a journey and was trying to protect something that the sorceress was also trying to protect in the nest, while Merman and his fish lackeys were trying to attack it. The floating Moses head actually gets interrupted because Merman pops up and then kidnaps Tila. We get a moment where Orko snitches again, but now he's snitching on He-Man and Tila to the sorceress, and the sorceress takes her falcon form. She heads off to the Crystal Sea too. Then He-Man pops up the same day, tosses two of the fishmen, and they're like, fuck this, I'm out. So Merman has Tila tied up, and he's about to sacrifice her to a giant fish demon. After the conflict, the pearl that actually controls the giant fish demon gets destroyed. Then it turns on Merman. He-Man saves Merman. Merman doesn't do the same in return, just kind of dips the fuck out when He-Man's in danger. But He-Man ends up to be okay. They go back to the floating Moses head, who finishes telling her the story. Turns out Tila is the daughter of the sorceress. I actually didn't see that one coming. That was kind of dope. So Tila has this legacy that she's gonna have to live up to eventually, ending the episode, but not before we get the message of the day.
In today's story, I went in search of my mother. I found her, but I also found something else. That the man who had cared for me since I was a baby, who loved me as he would his own daughter, was just as much my father as any parent could be. And so whether they are someone we were born to or whether they chose us to adopt, it doesn't matter. The ones who protect us and teach us and love us, they are the ones we call mother and father. And they deserve the same kind of love from us. Until next time.
Now, standout moments. Orko is a straight snitch. Don't tell Orko shit. Everybody in Eternia will know exactly what you got going on if Orko finds out, because he was just going around just snitching on everybody. What I liked about this episode, it didn't feel like your villain of the week or adventure of the week type episode. It actually felt like there was some world building going on, and that's exactly what I started doing this series for. I kind of want to know what the hell's going on. I mean, it's a very popular franchise that I just never got into, and I like going into this blind. I mean, sure, there's a documentary out, and I probably could have watched some sort of like YouTube history breakdown, but that's not what I'm doing this for. With that being said, I think this episode had some good vibes going. I also think it was kind of cool that Tila came to the realization that Man-at-Arms wasn't the stepfather, he was the father that stepped up. So shout out to him and all the people who be posting that quote when they get into a relationship with somebody's baby mama on Facebook. So with that being said, I'll be getting into episode 3 of the cartoon series next. But remember, kids, you're an orphan, just be thankful that somebody loves you.